The RotoGrinders Daily Fantasy Football Podcast is presented to you by Yahoo Sports Daily Fantasy. You got to check them out week one. They are running a $1 million prize pool that is rake-free. No management costs whatsoever. And even best part about it, $25 entry, only 10 entry max, and a great payout structure. It is the best GPP week one. You need to check it out for yourself. It's Yahoo Sports Daily Fantasy.
Welcome back to the absolutely epic early week podcast. Football is back. Dean here. Dean 7904 if you want to go technical on me. First time of the season. Going to be yapping about some football. This is a first look podcast, as always, almost always available. Tuesday afternoons, we record Monday nights. Batting first, leading off, returning champion. You know him from such things as Monkey Knife Fight and being the third guy from the left on the evolutionary chart. It's Grant Neiffer.
That was a solid razz there. I'm going to give that to you. I'm not really like giving you compliments. I've seen that chart and it's pretty darn accurate. Oh gosh, I'm ready for football to be back after this very, very long day I've had. But this first week is the same thing as every week. Oh, there's like 7 guys that are entirely mispriced. Great. Let's see how this goes.
Well, I don't know if it's going to be this way going forward. You know, they kind of tinker it as the season progresses. You know, salaries.
I just meant week one. Week one every single year. It's the same thing.
Yeah, we're going to like everybody. I feel like that's the problem, and you can only play so many people, and like everybody can't be 100% owned. That is our returning champion, Grant Neiffer. We would be recording earlier if it wasn't for Travis Mangone, who turns out, Grant, he's a diva. I'm not available at this time, not available at that time. But Mangone, of course, you know Travis Mangone from such things as the Sharp Side app and not watching good movies. Mangone, what's going on, dude?
Yeah, man, I'm a diva like Melvin Gordon, man. I demanded $8 million from RG, and I did not get that. And instead, they stuck me on this podcast with you two schmucks. So there we go. But no, I'm excited to be here with you guys. Excited to be talking football season, nonsense, all the good things. And apparently, you know, I was on last year, and I did a good enough job. The dress rehearsal went well. So I hope I'm back for the whole season. Hopefully, I don't get the hook after a couple of weeks.
He doesn't know that it's the same situation we had with Dean, where he asked like 6 other people, and they're like, "No, I don't want to be up that early on a Monday night." Yeah,
you were like the 9th person we call. Like, oh, at some point, I just screw it. Let's just call Mangone. I guess he'll do it. Sure. I mean, I know he wants $8 million, but that's not happening. And here we are.
You're the girl at the bar at 1:45 a.m.
Way to flatter. Hey, we gotta haze the new guy for sure. So. Traditionally, again, first look podcast. This will be out. You know, this is the first thing you listen to for the week. It shouldn't be your last because our takes, at least my takes, may change as the week progresses, as more and more information comes out. Grant, well, I guess there's a couple things we have to break into as far as we wanted to, make it as interactive as possible. We want to please the people. I'm here for the people. I'm a man of the people, Grant. So I think we want to tell us in the comments, not the comments on Twitter when it's dropped, but the comments actually on the RotoGrinders site. If you tell us your best advice or what do you want to hear? Tell us what you want to hear, or if you just got to make us laugh, whatever it is, somebody's going to give us the best possible option, the best possible piece of advice, Grant. We're going to implement that next week, and we're going to give them some RG swag. We've got to incentivize this to some degree. Does that sound about right? Does that seem pretty fair for you, Grant?
That seems fair for me. We want your guys' input because we have no idea what we're doing anymore.
Mangone, confirm, deny?
Yeah, man, I'm like The Rock, man. I'm the people's champ. I want all the people to be happy.
You are way shorter than The Rock and also slightly less muscular.
That's also like 27 movies ago. He's no longer the people's champ. He doesn't wrestle anymore.
When you're the people's champ, you're always the people's champ.
Yeah, you don't lose that.
Yeah, that's something you don't lose, Dean.
I feel like he turned to the people. Wasn't he like a bad guy at some point? Didn't that happen? I don't know. I don't recall. You're derailing the show, Mangone, and that's myself and Grant's. Someone has to keep us on track. And Mangone, you said you can hold us to that. Is that not something you're contractually obligated to do so now?
Yeah, I will do that. I didn't get my $8 million I wanted like Melvin Gordon, but I will make sure to do that going forward. My apologies.
We have a Grant's rant on layaway, which I'm totally excited about. We're going to break down. We're going to talk about the games as a whole as far as team stacks. We're going to break it down position by position as far as our favorite positions going down. Later on in the show, of course, we're going to have the tweets or consequences where we put our tweets on the line. Whoever finishes the worst as far as the outcome, we pick a guy, a situation, whatever it may be. we are forced to tweet something written by most likely Grant. I don't know. Grant, you're probably taking that responsibility universally, I assume, except for yourself when you lose inevitably week 1.
Yeah, of course it's going to be something that I write. I'm the only non-normal person here, I would say. That's not it. That's not even remotely true. Never mind.
Hey, just tell the people what content are you guys providing this year for NFL? Where outside of the podcast, Grant, where can the people find you?
I mean, I'll be doing Monkey Knife Fight videos, picks for pretty much every single game, which who knows if that'll go well. And you can't win long run by picking the over under and the spread on every single game throughout the course of the season. Even though I did have a 60% win percentage last year, that just means I'm going to get 40% this year.
Well, wait, have you not heard of Vegas Dave and his whale plays? He was 37-0 like every single week last year.
Yeah, I'm apparently not Vegas Dave.
Mango, you know about Vegas Dave, right?
Yeah, I'm not Vegas Dave. I'm Jersey Trav, but I don't know how much that holds there. But
where can the people find your content, Mango? And where else are they going to find you around RG?
Yeah, so I'm doing Sharpside content for the football games. I do a lot of props articles, and I'm also going to be providing picks too to games as well. So you'll see those over on the Sharpside YouTube channel. Head on over there, subscribe. There's tons of awesome content. If you can do that, we would really appreciate that. Give us the likes, the subscribes. We always love that. And I'm also doing another show. I'm kind of cheating on you guys in a little bit.
What?
At RotoGrinders. I'm doing one with one Brandon Adams, right? You know him from poker, the Steak King, shipping tons of money in DFS. And he's got a site. I forget the name of it. Something analytics. I should get that down.
Oh yeah, you're a great.
Sounds like you're really excited about that.
What it actually works for.
I know.
You.
Yeah, I know, right? I just lost the spot. But no, it's he's an absolutely awesome player in the industry. I'm excited to dive into his mind, talk with him about that, and also another guy that works with him, Stuart Gibson. So we're going to be breaking that down, and yeah, check that out, guys. I think it's going to be dropping on Friday night, so we're still in the process of kind of getting together with it and, wrapping it all up and what we want to talk about. But we, I'm liking what we're seeing, and I can't wait to talk with him because, again, he's a really sharp dude, and I love, having a different look that I've never heard in DFS, and he's someone that I feel like we've never really had on a podcast throughout the industry.
So before we dive in and do an overall view, Grant, is there something that it's like all we care about is NFL week 1, right? We don't really care about 2 months ago, 3 months ago, 4 months ago, Antonio Brown's helmet. Who really cares? Just all we care about is what happens week 1. Do you want to talk about any of that, or you just want to just dive in and talk about this slate?
I mean, I think we dive in and talk about the slate because so many things that are happening are very pertinent to this first week because of mispricing, because of what's happened a month ago, 2 months ago. That's basically what happens.
Yeah, Mangone. And stuff will come up organically as well, obviously. But Mangone, you're you guys are both, I guess, Vegas content types, so we're going to be focusing a lot on totals as well. The highest total on the board, Mangone, is the KC-Jacksonville game. And we should say we basically focus on, again, we're recording Monday night, basically at the end of or in the middle of Monday Night Football going forward. So this is a first-look podcast. It's not going to be as in-depth, and we can't hit up every single site. We're mainly focused on the DK main slate, which is a 12-gamer this week. So you have a lot of money. We'll talk about all the guys that are kind of too cheap based upon the prices being unleashed, a month ago or so. Kansas City, obviously the most appealing offense in all football, but they're facing – a historically tough Jacksonville defense, Mango. And, of course, that's the biggest board, the board number, 52.5, which isn't a monster. We've seen KC last year, in games with 60, 61, 62, give or take. What do we do with this game? Because best offense against a really tough defense on the road. Are we throwing our hands up? We taking a stand? What's your thought process here?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a guy in this game that you can argue in GPPs could be a lock button type play, right? Crazy people like Eric Crane, I think could be hey, if there's one guy I want to lock on this slate, I think there's a guy in tournaments that you can lock. I think he's a phenomenal play. He might be more of a chalkier option, and I believe he's going to be a guy that's in my cash games too. He's not on the best offenses in the league side of the ball. He's on the opposite side. It's D.D. Westbrook. He's going to have all the opportunity in the world. You got the whole narrative of Nick Foles has been, playing preseason with him and feeding him a ton. And, I just think this spot, perfect game script, everything lines up for a phenomenal game for D.D. Westbrook. I also think Leonard Fournette, he's a guy that always gets hurt, right? But he's like Jordan Reed right now. It's week 1. We know he's healthy. We know he's in good shape. This is the time to play Leonard Fournette. I think he's a really good tournament option. His price is 6.1K on DK. I really like him here. He's someone that I think you can consider in cash games and in tournaments. I think both of those two guys are great. I don't mind Nick Foles if you need a cheap quarterback, but not someone I'm, jamming in my lineups. And Of course, on the Kansas City side of the ball, anything goes. I mean, they're all phenomenal options, but I have a lot of interest in the Jaguars in this game.
But Grant, we should clarify here as far as who plays what. Mangone, you said lock button on Westbrook. You play one lineup, so every guy you play is a lock button, right?
Yeah, no, but I implied if I don't think it's crazy if you're playing 150 lineups. Like, Dean, you talked with me. You said, I'm doing fantasy draft. I might be doing 60 to 70 teams. Like, I don't think it's crazy to lock D.D. Westbrook at that price. I don't think it's a crazy thing to do. Like, if you want to, eventually we get to our betting idea, if you can take a stand and want to take some crappy guy in this range like Mohamed Sanu or John Brown, go right ahead. But I think
what year am I drafting Mohamed Sanu in? What are you talking about?
I don't know, but I was just naming the bad receivers in that range, hoping to bait you into taking a really bad play. But D.D. Westbrook, I just think is one of the better plays on this slate at wide receiver. I just think he's such a great point per dollar play, and I'm a huge fan. Grant, I mean, am I crazy? Is Dean right for calling me out on this?
It's a ridiculous take.
It's not that it's a ridiculous take because everyone's kind of on D.D. Westbrook. I feel like everyone said that he's going to be a great wide receiver this year. We've seen what he's done in the past. We've seen what he's done in tournaments. Everyone remembers the last 8 weeks of 2 seasons ago where he had the biggest target share in the league for a small stretch of a time. He's a guy that is getting a better quarterback and now is in a better system and is in a game where they have a 23.25 implied team total here. So I get what he's saying. I don't think it makes sense just absolutely lock button him here. It's the first week. Chalk is going to be highly concentrated, so you can get multiple guys with a whole lot of upside here. And, yeah, you talk about guys that you can throw in instead of him. D.D. Westbrook isn't guaranteed to get a touchdown. He's not guaranteed to get over 100 yards. He could end up with 70 yards and 8 catches. That's very viable. But lock betting him in, that's not going to really help you win a GPP. So I think it is better to diversify. Go with a guy like Adam Humphries, who's seen better games than D.D. Westbrook ever has, strangely enough. And he's in a new offense where there's wide receivers in there, but none of them really are that great. And I know that a lot of them have talent here, but there's guys in this range that you can go with that have a whole lot more upside.
Well, look, Samuel, I would say at 4.2K seems like an underprice. He's probably the most popular wide receiver. And by no means am I besmirching Westbrook. I think he's definitely in the conversation for cash game. He's absolutely not a lock button for me for tournaments. And I'm playing, a fair share of tournaments this year, at least week 1, especially that fantasy draft tournament where it's probably going to overlay and there's no rake. So, yeah, I'm in on that. It's not that much more. DJ Moore is 5.5K. Lockett at 6K. Is he the last man standing in Seattle or Cincinnati? I'm in on that. Godwin at 6.2 seems underpriced against San Fran, a game that could shoot out. So, and again, there's so many good running back values we'll talk about as well too. It just doesn't seem necessary. He's probably a good dollar for dollar play. He definitely is a good dollar for dollar play, but who says he can't get 70 yards, 6 catches, and no touchdowns, and that's it, 13 points, which is okay, but by no means, are you cashing anything because of that. I did want to ask, actually, before we kind of fully dive into this, Grant, we were talking about this pre-show. Give me, I like the idea of a word or a phrase that might summarize the week as far as how we're diving into it. What is your word or phrase that might summarize week 1 for you?
Chalk. It's the same thing I use to describe it every single year. It's chalk.
Yeah, and on that conversation, mine is groupthink. There's all sorts of content out there, including RotoGrinders, and we all sort of think the same things. And not only that, not just think our same things, but all these ideas of who's good and who's bad. And we've already think, oh, well, this team is good. This team is bad. This team is doing this. This team is doing that. And I always say this, man, we're Jon Snow, man. We know nothing. We think we know, but in 2 or 3 weeks, we'll look back and say, well, I thought that was going to happen. And, we can only say so many things definitively, and we'll look back and some things we'll be right about, some things we won't. And for that reason, just like Grant's saying, now, again, there's a lot of good plays. I think players will be dispersed as far as ownership, but there's going to be a lot of guys that are also 5% owned that might just sort of come out of nowhere, sneak up on people. Your thought on that, Mangone, and what is your phrase of the week?
Hey, man, when you asked me that, it came to my mind. I thought of that song, Won't You Take Me To Value Town? Because it's all the value, man. I mean, it's value here, value there. It's value everywhere. I mean, there's so many good plays. And again, that's why I don't think, if you want a lock button and take a stand on, a really good chalkier option, a poll that you mentioned, Tony Pollard, if he's going to be the guy, I don't hate a guy that you can lock button there. Obviously I wouldn't then lock button D.D. and Tony Pollard, but he's a guy that I think if he's in the role that we're possibly expecting, if Zeke doesn't play, he's a guy that you're just going to want to load up on because he's such a cheap option. So there's just value everywhere, Dean. So that's kind of how I sum it up.
I'm still recovering from from Mangone dropping some bars on us. When we asked him to join the pod, we didn't realize he was this versatile. Did you? At least I didn't.
I had no idea.
Listen. Not the only person here at RotoGrinders who can sing. Pepsi, I'm coming for that singing trophy you got.
You mean Cheese?
Well, yeah, Cheese can sing too. Oh. I forgot about that. But Pepsi's got a singing trophy. You know, Dean's best friend, as they say.
So we're about like 13 minutes in the first pod of the year, and a new member, Mangone, has already insulted Brandon Adams and Jesus Good. Keep it up. Welcome to the podcast. So what are your thoughts there, Grant, as far as like the big totals at the top? Again, the totals aren't that huge for week one. 52.5 is the biggest number as of right now on Monday night. Kansas City versus Jacksonville. You got the Rams versus Carolina at 50 and a hook. San Fran, Tampa, 49.5. Atlanta, Minnesota. Detroit, Arizona, 47, 46-ish. You know, there's nothing like you necessarily have to play, right?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything you necessarily have to play. I mean, we look at last year, and we had Tampa Bay going up against one of the best defenses in the league in New Orleans, and Ryan Fitzpatrick goes and just absolutely destroys things. There's new guys coming into new offenses. Some of them are going to mesh better. We saw it with Sean McVay like 2 years ago. There's all sorts of different spots with new coaches and new players, and you don't really know how they're going to mesh. Groupthink is so heavy at this point in the year that you kind of don't really want to go with that much chalk. I think it's a viable week to game stack most games and try and find a quarterback that's going to be very low owned that you can use and has the potential for a massive outing here. So like looking at these games, we see the guys at the top here, KC, Philly, Rams, Dallas, Seattle, Minnesota, and the Chargers are the top offenses on the entire slate in terms of implied team totals here. And you look down at the bottom and you find teams like Buffalo, Cincinnati, Miami, which Miami happens to have the top scoring quarterback of last year at this point, just so you know. But there's always good spots that you can target that people are going to go wait.
Hold on. At this point, what are you talking about at this point?
Who had the most points after week one last year and after week two last year?
So how is that predictive going? So you're suggesting that Fitzpatrick is like going to keep that going? Well, what happened in week 6 and 7 and 8? Wasn't he replaced?
No, that was week like 4 and 5, and then he got back in 6, and then he went out in 7. I think he got back in 8. I don't know. I can't remember, but he did put up massive numbers when he was actually in the game, and he was perpetually underpriced here. I'm not saying play Fitzpatrick because it is going against Baltimore, but I'm just saying it's a scenario in week 1 where you can find these offenses that have almost no implied team totals. They're going to come in around 1 to 2% ownership that you can full stack, hoping for a big outing. The guy that I'm really looking at is Josh Allen. He's going up against a team that is decent. They have a 17.5 implied team total against them. Probably going to be running the ball a lot with Le'Veon Bell, but they can give up a bunch of touchdowns here. Josh Allen is able to air the ball out. He is able to run a ton. His wide receivers are cheap. Like, it's a scenario that we've seen time and time again, and he's still probably going to garner almost no ownership.
So just to clarify, Mangone, you mainly come at it from a cash game perspective, and I know, Grant, you play cash games as well, but you're all over the place, right? You're playing cash, you're playing tournaments, you're playing everything, correct?
I pretty much play everything from head-to-heads, 50-50s, small field tournaments, 10-man tournaments, all the way to the Millie Maker.
Mangone, are you diversifying as far as making more than one lineup for football? Do you make more than one lineup for football? I know you don't do this so much, in baseball and basketball. You're more of like a one lineup guy. Is that the same deal with football, or do you kind of like roll out a couple just for fun?
Well, in cash games, I play like one lineup per site. So, I'm going to be on – I believe I'll be on Fantasy Draft, Yahoo, FanDuel, and DraftKings. That's what I'm currently doing. I'll probably be playing some drafts as well. So I'll be all over the place. But it depends on what site where I'm playing tournaments. Like if I'm doing Yahoo, I'll probably like max enter the management fee contest, and I'll put, X amount of lineups in whatever the max is. But like on a site like DraftKings, where we're talking the salary, I really like doing a lot of the 3-entry max stuff. And that's where I'll definitely be living, doing those contests. And I'll throw them in things that aren't 3-entry max too, but I like focusing on those in GVPs. There's some really good payout structures. I know the 150 is always pretty good. I think the Wildcat's always a pretty good contest. It just depends on the payout structures every week. And yeah, I definitely make 3 tournament lineups, and sometimes I throw my cash one in instead. It just kind of depends on the week, but I definitely like focusing on 3, hand building them and handcrafting it to the proper and appropriate game stack that I like.
Handcrafting. Come, you with the fan. It's like a domestic beer or something.
I mean, did you see me? I showed you my handcrafted project when I was a kid. I mean, I can handcraft things, Dean.
You are going to have to tweet that out to the people. It is an absolute disaster, and I'm not going to tell them what emblem it's supposed to be. They will have no idea. Grant, something we'll be talking about a lot in this podcast is stacking. And like, talk about how much you want to make sure you stack. Do you have to stack when building your football lineups? At the very least, you want a correlation with a quarterback and one of his receivers. Of course, you could play a guy like Allen naked. You reference him as well. I know you're a big fan, and of course, he's got the legs too, and his receivers are kind of up and down. How much are you prioritizing stacking, and how deep of a stack can you go? As far as maybe 2 or 3 teammates, maybe running it back on the other side? Is that a week-to-week thing? Is that something you seek out? How do you do that?
I mean, it literally depends on every single slate, on every single contest. What you're doing drastically depends on what the prize payout is. In the Millie Maker, you almost always want to stack and stack pretty heavily and bring something back from the other side of it because you want that game that shoots out because that's pretty much the one that wins it almost every single week. And you look at every single thing differently on a case-by-case basis. Also, taking a guy like Jacoby Brissett, you don't need a full stack Jacoby Brissett because he's 4,400, so you don't need a giant amount of points out of him. Like, it's all based on salary, how much you want to stack. If you're taking a team like, let's say the Rams, you don't need to take Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, and Brandon Cooks. If you're taking a team with 2 high-priced wide receivers, you don't necessarily need to take both those wide receivers. If you're taking a team like Tampa Bay, you can just take Jameis Winston along with Mike Evans because there's always the chance that he gets 15, 16 targets in a game. Like, it depends on every single scenario is entirely different. And a guy like Baker Mayfield at certain points of the season last season, he was spreading the ball out so much that you wanted to stack him with a lower price guy on his offense like Higgins or like Njoku or something like that, where you're stacking him knowing he's going to spread the ball around and you're looking for the touchdowns and a slight uptick in targets when you're stacking him because you just want the guy that gets the most touchdowns.
I just want to get the little mini primer out there for anybody that's kind of joined the show for the first time or playing NFL DFS for the first time. Just these are terms we're going to be talking about. And Grant, one more thing to just kind of elaborate and clarify stacking, because I think it's important, and I don't think it's stressed enough or talked about enough. Like you mentioned the Millionaire Maker on DK, and you kind of sort of have to hit the nuts. And a lot of times that's going to be a stack of some sort. But also if you're playing on a site like Fantasy Draft or a site like Yahoo or whatever that has maybe like 1,000 or 1,500 man tournament, you don't have to be as meticulous with the stack as in depth. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, no, it's not a requirement because you don't have to hit the absolute nuts. You're not going up against 200, 300, 400,000 people in this tournament. You're going up against 5 to 10,000 people. Going into a 100-man tournament, you just kind of want to go for high floor ceiling combos because the payout up top compared to the min cash is only like a 80% difference as compared to the Millie Maker where it's a 99.9999% difference, something like that. So it's drastically different payout structures kind of lean you towards something. And so the bigger tournaments obviously have much bigger up top. So going into a tournament where it's 1,000 times as much to the top place compared to one that's 20 times as much to the top place, you're not really going as much for the top as you are going for both the cash and the possibility of getting the top.
I think it's very important. I feel like that's not talked about enough. And also like the pay distribution, understanding if it's a flat payout or if it's a ridiculous, amount at the top, and that should factor in how you're building lineups as well. Mangone, feel free to chime in on top of that or just kind of give us another overview take as far as a slate. Or if you want, you can just kind of open up quarterbacks.
Yeah, I'll just open up quarterbacks. Obviously stacking is an important thing, and I think Grant hit a ton of great things there. But yeah, we'll talk about quarterbacks. And I've heard people talking about playing Brissett, and I just don't know if that's the thing you need to do in this week. We just have so much value. And I'm definitely buying into the Kyler Murray hype. I think he's someone I'm definitely going to look to. I think he's going to, be chalky, and I'm not someone that forces my quarterback in first. When I build my lineups for cash games specifically, I'm putting in the running backs that I want. I want the guys that are going to get the most volume, most opportunity. I want the running backs that are catching the ball and running the ball. And then I try and see what quarterback fits based on what receivers I have and then kind of go from there. So I don't prioritize quarterback, and I think that there obviously are quarterbacks to look at based on how you're game stacking, right? And the game stacks, I guess I could touch on it a little bit that I like. One that I'm a big fan of is the San Francisco game and the Tampa Bay game. So I'm sure I'll have, at least one Jimmy Garoppolo and one Jameis Winston because I like that game stack a lot. That's when I'm definitely going to be all over, and I think there's a ton of scoring going to be going down.
I'm not going to name drop or anything, but I was talking to one Chris Jimino pre-show, and he likes that San Francisco side for tournaments as far as a stack. He couldn't really pinpoint exactly who to pair with Garoppolo because it's kind of a ragtag outside of Kittle. Do you have a favorite to pair him, or is Kittle your answer?
Yeah, I would say my favorite, I mean, especially my best ball shares, they're saying the same thing. I got 23% Jimmy Garoppolo. I got 35% Kittle. And then receiver, I got a lot of Pettis. I got him at like 32%. So I'm in on this Niner stack. And yeah, I'm definitely on the Jimmy G Kittle combo. And I'm a buyer in Pettis. Let me see his price. I haven't looked it up
It's
yet.
expensive. It's
Yeah,
more,
that is.
yeah,
That's pricey.
it's a fade first. I mean, look, of course, you can do anything you want in tournaments. You compare him with Jimmy G, but I feel like that price does not make sense in comparison to the field.
Yeah, but I still think obviously like we're gonna have a lot of salary, and I'll probably have spots where I can do that. So, and I'll run it back with guys like Mike Evans, Godwin. Those are two guys I really like. OJ Howard, I'm a big fan of. So, yeah, that game in general, like that's the game that gets me real hot and heavy, man. Like I see that game, the pants come off. Like I'm excited for Niners and Bucks. So that's the game I'm probably most excited about from a tournament perspective.
Well, there you go. Now, thank you for the visual. So I threw out some polls on the old Twitter machine, and you guys are aware. You retweeted them. I'm not sure if you looked at the results. Hopefully you didn't. It'll be a little more fun. So if you guys want to partake, I'm going to do this every single Monday, and we'll talk about whatever's interesting on the pod. And you guys participate as far as the polls. But Grant, I asked the people, which of the following quarterbacks are you most likely to roster first on the DK main slate? Grant, we have Wentz versus Washington at 5.7K. The aforementioned Mahomes at 7.2K versus Jacksonville. Kyle Murray, aforementioned as well, versus Detroit at 5.6K. Or Lamar Jackson in a Narrative Street homecoming game. He's from South Florida at the decrepit, putrid, and you insert your own adjective here, Miami Dolphins. Who's your favorite amongst that bunch?
I mean, it depends on what you're talking about. You look at the Vegas implied team totals here. Philly's sitting at 27.5 here, and yes, they are a decent favorite, so maybe a bit of that is running later on in the game. But Wentz is the lowest price when you consider the Vegas implied total, and everyone's so excited about Kyler Murray. And yes, he has a decent implied team total, and yes, he can run, but like realistically, Wentz is the guy that's most likely to be the highest scoring of that group on a point per dollar basis. He's going up against Washington. Their defense is not great, and he's expected to score the most amount of points. He has a lot of targets in that offense, including 2 good tight ends. So, I mean, he's the most likely candidate, I think, to put up a big game considering his price tag.
Yeah, I like him a good bit, especially for cash. The tricky part is, the distribution as far as the pieces of pie that get delegated amongst the team. Grant, it feels like there's so many guys that can be that guy for Philadelphia. And it feels like every single week it's going to be a different person, be it Sproles or Sanders or Howard being siphoning at the goal line. You got D-Jax catching a bomb. You got Aguilar is a thing. You mentioned Ertz, mentioned Goddard, Alshon Jeffrey. I don't know who to pair with Wentz. Like that seems to make it a little bit trickier. Of course, it could be any one of these guys. They're probably the most consistent will probably be Ertz at a tight end position. Does that sort of make it a little bit more difficult to stack a guy like Wentz in tournaments?
Yeah, it absolutely does, but it also makes people less likely to stack him with the right guy, so you can create in some leverage there. I was talking about him more from a cash game perspective and just a raw points perspective. When it comes to stacking for tournaments, I think a lot of people are going to be on Murray and then just go with the obvious guy of Kirk, David Johnson, and maybe a little bit of Larry Fitzgerald, although the dude's old. When you're looking at Lamar Jackson, everyone's just going to assume go with him naked, and that's a fine play. It very easily could work out well. He's probably going to get a ton of rushing yards. And who was the last guy?
Mahomes,
obviously, they're just going to go with Tyreek Hill, but Jacksonville has a good defense. You can go with any number of guys. Obviously, Hill and Kelsey being the top 2 guys here. But Mahomes is going to be a guy that people are going to be a little bit scared away from using because he's going up against Jacksonville. And while we did see certain spots last year, like going up against Baltimore, where he didn't have the greatest game in the world, kind of salvaged it a little bit going into overtime. But he can go up against good defenses, and he can struggle a little bit. So I think that people might not be on him as much. I think he might be the better tournament play, although people might be able to use him pretty easily, depending on if Pollard's going to be available or if Zeke's actually going to play. So it kind of determines the slate a little bit based on if Pollard is going to be the starting back week 1.
Yeah, that will affect lineup construction for sure, and we're going to address that shortly. Bold call. Lamar Jackson gets the rushing bonus and gets a rushing touchdown. Who's with me?
Bold call. Josh Allen gets a rushing touchdown and the rushing bonus.
Well, hold on a second. This could be this. I think Lamar Jackson outscores Josh Allen.
Yeah, really? Oh, go with the chalk thing. That's great.
Well, I just backed you up in a corner, and all of a sudden you're afraid of tweets. That's what it sounds like to me.
Oh, if we want to do this, we'll just give Mangone Kyler Murray, and we can just straight up go with most rushing yards.
Oh, man. I think Mangone – this is a lot of fun. Mangone, are you in on that?
I'm tempted. Like you have like the nuts though. Like I'm not in on this.
I'm stuck with Josh Allen.
Grant's losing. It doesn't matter.
You're right. Grant is probably losing.
Silver medal's good. Just as long as you don't get the bronze, you're fine.
Listen, I have a reliable source in Edmonds from the Cardinals. He said that they're gonna open everything up in week 1, so I'm gonna trust that source. There we go. So I'm in.
20 to 25 witnesses to confirm this source, or is just we're just gonna trust it blindly?
Yeah, we're going to just trust it blindly. No 20 to 25 witnesses, though. There were 20 to 25 witnesses to see Louisville pound down Notre Dame in my bet to cover today. So go Cardinals.
Well, who won the game, though? Did Notre Dame win?
Yeah, Notre Dame won, but I won my bet. That's all that matters.
Louisville pounded.
Guys, back on task.
Thank you. When Grant's getting us back on task, this could be an issue. As far as the poll results, by the way, 37% to Wentz, 33% to L-Jax. Is L-Jax a thing, or did I just make that up? Not really sure. Murray at 16% and Mahomes at 14%, which is pretty interesting. And also that kind of speaks to the fact that, hey, we live in the world of a salary cap. But again, it's not that hard to fit anybody. And any more thoughts as far as quarterbacks? We can kind of break into anybody else if you want to throw them out there, Grant, or we can jump to running backs that you kind of referenced. Because
I just want to mention Jared Goff. People forget how good he was with Cooper Kupp in the offense last year, especially with Gurley taking as many touchdowns in that offense as he did. It's a slightly different situation. I don't know if they're going to be nearly as run heavy. It's a whole new season. They might go a little bit less hard on Gurley throughout the course of the season, knowing that in all likelihood he's going to make the playoffs. So Gurley might get a little rest, and yes, the backup running backs may get a little bit more workload in the end zone. But Jared Goff at multiple different times during last season had massive games in which he put up 400-plus yards, I believe. And he could easily do it here. So looking at guys that are moderately priced, like Woods, like Cook, like Kupp, all three of them, you can throw any two in the offense, and hopefully those are the two guys that go off. If Jared Goff goes off for a big game and Gurley isn't the one sniping the touchdowns away, he's a guy that I think is going to go slightly overlooked.
Mangone, you want to give us a quarterback or two before we move on? Winston, that guy gets a 300. He cracks the 300-yard threshold as far as the bonus basically half the time. The last 2 or 3 years, I saw that note out there somewhere on the Twitter machine. Mayfield looks like a fun guy to stack with ODB or ODB. Let's go with is it ODB? Sure. Nonetheless, that Atlanta game.
OBJ?
OBJ. Who's ODB? Well, it's old dirty bastard.
Are they the same person? I mean,
Mangone, inspect the deck or never mind. Okay, you have anybody else as far as quarterbacks, or shall we jump off and talk about running backs? Because the conversation here, again, we don't know, is Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. That can kind of dictate a lot this week.
Yeah, so you mentioned something interesting. Like there's 2 quarterbacks I was going to bring up in conversation, and you kind of just mentioned them. Like I mentioned talking about Jameis Winston and liking him, but why was Jameis Winston so successful last year? Well, because of his offensive coordinator. He had Monken there. And who has Monken now? That's Baker Mayfield. And I expect Baker Mayfield to have a massive season this year. I believe I was listening to a podcast. I believe Chris Raybon said this. He was talking about how Winston and Fitzpatrick, if you put their fantasy, scores together, they were the QB2 on the entire season. And Fitzpatrick and Winston, they've never in the history of their career been a top 10 QB in fantasy. And the fact that Monken was able to do that, imagine him with Baker Mayfield.
Back in 2015, I believe Fitzpatrick had 32 touchdowns.
Sorry. So one time, but either way, the whole point is the fact that we have Monken there with the whole air raid offense and everything. Baker Mayfield is going to have a massive season. I mean, it's going to be big. He's going to go absolutely off. And he's got a whole, preseason under his belt, or not preseason, off season under his belt with this new system, and with being the guy in town, not having to take someone's job, not having to deal with the Hugh Jackson nonsense. I'm expecting a massive season for Baker Mayfield, and I think any week he's in play. And the Titans, they're not good. Sure, they might have this positive game script, but this is the Browns. They have been terrible for a while, and they might just want to pour it on just to show everyone that they're here and they're ready to go.
Running backs, Mangone, under the assumption that Tony Pollard is the running back for Dallas and Zeke doesn't play. And again, we don't know. It's a flat out guess, but just, appease me for the hypothetical. He's 4.5K. Is this a lock button, much like your previous lock button?
Yeah, I think he's a guy that, if you look at the poll that you posted, I voted on it. I voted the 75 to 100%. I want to be heavily exposed to Tony Pollard. I'm building 3 lineups on DraftKings, like there's a good chance he's going to be in all 3. Like, sure, maybe there's that one chance I don't have him on like the 1. Like if it happens like organically and I just can't get him in, that'd be frustrating. But I want him on all my teams. And if I was playing like a script of teams, yeah, I'm going to play that. Like if I'm playing on Yahoo and doing that $20 GVP with the no management fee, yeah, Tony Pollard's probably going to be on every single team because he's just too cheap. And especially on DraftKings, like the $4,500 price tag is just too good to pass up. So yeah, I'm in on Tony Pollard. Positive game script. Everything's looking perfect for him. If there's no Ezekiel Elliott, give me all the Tony Pollard.
Yeah, I value opportunity over skill more than anything when it comes to running backs, especially. And we would presume he would get a heavy opportunity, but he's also skillful too. Like he looks really, really good. He looks legit. Like I don't necessarily care too much. As long as you're getting 20 carries, I'll take my chances. The tricky part again is you can only have 3 running backs, and Dalvin Cook is too cheap and well positioned. Austin Eckler looks like a great play. Chris Carson looks like a great play. The big spends as far as, Saquon and McCaffrey are, look like they're well positioned as well too. And it's not that hard to get them because we talked about all the value plays that are lurking out there, Grant. So what do we do with a guy like Pollard? For cash, I think he makes a ton of sense. We shouldn't spend too much time on it because, at some point, maybe 24 hours, this will be settled as far as Zeke is playing week 1. But just a general thought, what are you doing here if Pollard is the man?
I mean, I'm probably just going to play a whole bunch of them. It's that simple. He's going to get the giant workload here. He's probably going to be 45% owned, but there are enough other good options around the same price range that people are going to use where he's not going to be overwhelmingly owned. And realistically, I think last year the chalk, like Fitzpatrick was on the winning lineup, but it actually had 1 or 2 incredibly chalky guys. I think he's the guy you roll with. Maybe you can go over the less in the field if you really want to, but I'm probably just going to go all in on Pollard and just deal with it and hope that variance doesn't hit on him and him alone. But there are other guys in this price range that you can really go with. I mean, we have Freeman going up against Minnesota. They have a 21.5 implied total. He could potentially be in for a decent game. Eckler, we've already talked about going up against a little bit tougher matchup here, but they do have a 25.5 implied team total here. Eckler did do well as a backup to Melvin Gordon, but if you remember, he wasn't as great when he was actually in the starting lineup when Gordon was out last year. So potentially pivoting off of Pollard, you can go down to Justin Jackson. If Eckler gets injured or if something just game script, they randomly decide to throw Justin Jackson in more of the game, you can go with him. Dalvin Cook, Leonard Fournette, like there's all sorts of guys in this range. And don't even forget about all the guys above him, Chubb, Mixon, Bell, David Johnson, Christian McCaffrey, Barkley, like paying up for some other guys. Not a bad idea at all. I think the chalk lineup build is probably going to be 2 cheap guys, most likely Pollard and either Cook, Carson, or Eckler, and then pay out for Barkley or McCaffrey.
Yeah, where are you at, Mangone? I know you have a shell lineup. I think Cook's in it. Is Dalvin Cook in your shell lineup right now?
Yeah, man. If we're playing Family Feud, the board just dinged, Dean. Dalvin Cook is in it. Absolutely love him. He gets to go against Atlanta, and Atlanta has been a team that we've picked on against the running backs for many years now, and I'm going to continue that. Also, the situation lines up well. Has a new offensive coordinator, tendencies to run the ball a lot. I like the situation for him. Also, if they are trailing, right, because this is a game where they could be trailing against the Falcons, I'm not worried about Madison going in there and stealing the PPR opportunity because that's for Dalvin Cook. He's not that kind of running back. So, Cook is going to get those opportunities too. I expect a really big season out of Dalvin Cook. Nice bounce back season. And, the spot is just too good. And, again, Dean, great for my 20% best ball shares.
Yeah, that's the people care about. Let me ask you this. Let's say Zeke plays. Like he signs tomorrow. He's good to go. You got Zeke up top at 9.2. You got Barkley at 9K, McCaffrey at 8.8, Mangone. Who's your favorite amongst those 3 for cash?
Yeah, I think it's Christian McCaffrey. Like, I'm not touching Zeke. It's just there's an unknown, right? And not an unknown if he's going to play, but, I don't know what kind of shape he's in. I'm just not going to mess with that when I got a guy like Christian McCaffrey who I just think is in a perfect spot. I like the game script for him. I'm expecting it to be a back-and-forth type of game. I like Christian McCaffrey a ton. I think that he's someone that's worth paying for. And I think that's a good game stack opportunity that we didn't talk about too much as well. But McCaffrey's my guy. How about you, Grant? Which running back do you like the most at the top?
I think I'm going with Barkley. It's close, though. It's very close. But Barkley, just the amount of targets he got last year, I know that McCaffrey got a ton of them too. The opponent he's going against in the Giants had a giant target share to running backs last year at 26.6, and he's going to be a centerpiece of the offense. Golden Tate is in that offense right now. Eli Manning is obviously trash. There's going to be tons of dump-offs. He could potentially get 18 targets during the course of the game, as I think we saw once or twice last year. I don't know. I'm just a big Barkley guy, and I don't know. I mean, we could see Cam airing out a little bit more, playing a little bit of catch up. There is a small spread on that game, but there is always the chance that the Rams blow them out here. I think Saquon's a little bit more game script proof, and like he will be getting the majority of the shares. I mean, it's a new season. They could be a little bit more less carefree or more carefree, whatever they could give him less touches this point in the season. But we don't know. It's a whole new ball game because it's a whole new year. We don't know if McCaffrey's going to get 99% of the first team offense like he did the first 11 weeks of last year. So I think like Christian McCaffrey's probably the cash game SB or RB1 guy, but I think I'd rather go with Barkley for tournaments. Yeah,
that kind of speaks to the ownership I have, at least in my poll. Among the pricey running backs on DK main slate, which are you most likely to roster first? Barkley 9K, McCaffrey 8.8, Gurley, I threw Gurley in there for fun, 7.9K, and David Johnson, it feels like a wild card to me. Interesting tournament play as far as that Arizona lineup, what their new offense is going to look like. McCaffrey.
Is it really that much of a wild card? I mean, we saw this guy 3 years ago, whatever it was, and he was getting just tons of targets. And then he got one of the worst coaches of all time running the offense who did not understand about throwing to the running back when you have one of the best receiving running backs in the league, quite possibly the best receiving running back in the league outside of McCaffrey. And now, like, he actually has a coach that is going to scheme to him, is going to run a pace-up offense. Kyler Murray may be trash. The offense may be trash, but the volume is going to be there for David Johnson. He's still an incredibly talented guy. It's just the guy running the offense last year was horrible, just absolutely horrible, and he wanted to run up the middle first down almost every single time and not use David Johnson to his skill set. So I don't think it's nearly as much of a wild card as everyone says he is. I love DJ this year. I love him in week 1 when we're getting him at 7-7 in an offense where he could potentially be in the same role he was 2 years ago when he was close to 10K.
I got him in both my season-long drafts.
No one cares. No one cares at all.
They care about Mangone's best ball, but not my
I got 20% David Johnson in best ball. So let me tell you, I am invested in David Johnson.
I have 80% Melvin Gordon. I'm screwed.
I care 100% not at all about this conversation. McCaffrey, 44%, by the way. Barkley, 26%. Johnson at 23%. And, of course, Gurley at 7%, which I think everybody basically be in, like, wait-and-see mode in Gurley, which I suppose you could take advantage of that in tournaments. I'm probably not, outside of maybe, like, one random share or something like that. And then you talk about Murray and DJ, Grant. I like that as a pairing because Murray's going to have a little dump-off pass to Johnson. He's going to take it to the house. That's always nice to have, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little bit interesting, though. I mean – I guess it does have a pretty big correlation because Murray can always run the ball in, which takes a little bit of equity away from DJ. But I guess if you stack them together, you're still getting that touchdown. And DJ, yeah, like you're getting most of the touchdowns between those two guys. And there's the possible correlation of having a receiving or multiple receiving touchdowns for DJ, in which both of them end up with points.
This was like the most surprising poll response I think I got. And maybe it's because of a small sample size or whatever. I'm not really sure. And for whatever reason, this is one that was answered the least. But I asked, like, basically your favorite wide receiver as far as the spend ups. Beckham in his first game versus Tennessee at 8.1K. Julio versus Minnesota at 8K. Mike Evans at 7.9K. And Tyreek Hill at 7.6K, Grant. Who do you think the people thought was the most popular? I guess I kind of framed it in a way where you might change your answer.
Mike Evans?
Yeah, and at 43%, does that seem?
No, he's got a massive target share. Tampa Bay is one of the favorite teams of the week. They know that they're going to air the ball out a ton. Minnesota still has some decent guys on the outside. Was very good versus wide receiver ones last year. OBJ is going up against a Tennessee team that will probably be at the same pace they were last year. They have a 25 implied team total, but we don't know how much they're going to spread the ball out. Last year, they spread the ball out a ton. Even with OBJ in there, they still have Chubb. They still have Njoku. They still have Landry in the offense here. So it's a lot more weapons. Whereas in Atlanta, it's a little bit more concentrated on Julio. And Tyreek Hill is going up against Jacksonville. It's one of the best teams in the league. They were 7th in DVOA against wide receiver ones last year. I get that Tyreek Hill is an absolute freak of nature, but if I remember correctly, I think he only broke off a run in overtime. That's why it redeemed value going up against Jacksonville, but I still don't think he had that great of a game.
Yeah, but and look, I'm no way besmirching Evans. I think Evans is legit and he's in a great spot. I'm just surprised he separated himself from this grouping pretty handily. And also, doesn't everybody want to just play? I thought everybody wanted to play Godwin, Mangone. Like they're playing them both? No, unless outside of a stack, they're not.
Well, you didn't put Godwin in the poll, but like, of course, people are gonna like Evans. Like,
what your polls work? You can only put 4 names in there, right? Go ahead.
Yes, I understand how Twitter polls work, Dean. Thank you very much for that little lecture and lesson. But, Mike Evans,
tutorial after the show.
Mike Evans is a phenomenal option. Like the Bucks, like who are you scared of in the running back position taking up any opportunity, Dean, from the running backs? Anything? Is anyone going to do anything on the Bucks from the running backs?
This is the year for Jones. I think he's going to break. No, I don't like any of the running backs.
Is this Peyton Barber season? Are you going to tweet that out on Sunday? Lock button him on all your lineups?
Well, I mean, according to you, you're lock button everybody. So, I'm not lock buttoning him for sure. I can confirm that.
All right. Well, I just wanted to check and make sure. But, yeah, I think Mike Evans is a phenomenal option. Like him a lot. I've been loading up on him, doing like the 6-mans and drafts. I've been getting a lot of Mike Evans exposure through that. So I like Mike Evans a ton. I'm sure in one of my, 3-entry max teams, I'm sure I'll have one, either I'll probably run Jimmy G. I'll probably do like a Jimmy G with like Kittle and then run it back with like Mike Evans, or run it back with Godwin, or do like a Winston and then have Evans on it, and with OJ Howard, and then run it back with, I don't know, someone like Kittle or Pettis or something like that. But I'm going to be loaded up on this game, and I'm going to be loaded up on Mike Evans in tournaments. I'll definitely be overweight compared to the field.
Let's jump back to your cash lineup, though. I don't think Mike Evans is on your cash lineup, is he?
No, I don't think he makes the cash lineup because I don't think he just fits the construction necessarily.
Yeah.
If I have the money for Mike Evans, sure. Like, I honestly think he might be the highest scoring wide receiver on the entire slate, but I just don't know if I'll have that money for Mike Evans. That's kind of one of the concerns that I'm having. But he's a really good play, definitely someone to be loading up on in tournaments. It doesn't feel like he's going to be the cash game guy. I'm probably going to go not from that tier, the top tier at receiver. I'm probably going to go like more to the mid tier to grab a guy.
Back to your shell lineup, you have Westbrook locked in. I don't think you're getting Evans. Again, I like Evans. I just don't think he fits the bill, just kind of like you kind of said too. And I'm probably more likely to play Godwin just because of the price and within the world with salary cap. But we're going to play the feud one more time. Samuel's on the board, right? He's in your team?
Yeah, Samuel's definitely in play. He's a really cheap option. Definitely like him. Right, if I have money to spend up, though, let's say like salary could move around and I might have a chance to move up from Samuel, sure, I might do that. But right now I definitely have Samuel as a guy in there. I just think his price is too cheap. If you look at the situation, you take away Funchess, and with taking him away from that situation, that just improves Samuel's opportunity and improves DJ Moore's opportunity. There's only ways to go up. And they're likely going to have a positive game script there because this game I expect to be a back-and-forth game, lots of scoring, lots of opportunity for Samuel here. And I think this price at $4,200, this might be the cheapest you see him all season. So, again, another guy receiver that I'm not saying you have to lock button in, but if you wanted to, I wouldn't say that you're crazy. If you want to go overweight on one of these guys and just beat the field in it, I don't think it's crazy because this is a price that I don't think you're going to see on Samuel and D.D. Westbrook much rest of the season.
Grant, your Seahawks have one of my favorite receivers this week. Are you on him as well?
Yeah, I mean, they don't have anyone else to throw it to. He was having a great season last year. His target share is probably going to increase because of all the injuries. I mean, Baldwin's not on the team anymore. They are probably going to run the ball a decent amount just because that seems to be what they want to do. I don't know why, but they are, and it seemed to work last year. He's going up against a bad defense here in Cincinnati, and he's only 6K. And when you consider his target share, when you consider his ability to take the ball deep, everything kind of makes sense for using him. I think he's one of the top options on the entire slate, but I also think there's decent pivots right around the same price range that are going to be way less owned.
I just want to clarify, we've never said the guy's name. We keep saying he and him. It's Tyler Lockett for the people, in case you're curious, if you haven't figured it out. It wasn't Jerron Brown the whole time, was it?
No. He's not on the team anymore, I don't think.
No, I think Jerron Brown is a second wide receiver right now. Is he not?
He got cut.
Yeah, he got cut. I don't think they have a second wide receiver.
When did he get cut?
He got cut when they traded for Clowney.
Yeah, he got cut on Saturday when they do all of the, all the things. Apparently, you weren't paying attention on Twitter, Dean.
I was. I did a lot of prep work, and that one somehow slipped past me. Oh, boy. So I like Lockett a good bit for all the reasons that Grant was talking about. Give me somebody off the board. Anybody else, Grant? If you have another receiver you're kind of hoarding and you want to share with the people, by all means, go for it.
I mean, there's a few guys. Like I already mentioned, the Rams wide receivers. People forget what was happening with Kupp in the offense, and Gurley is probably going to be less of a centerpiece now that for some reason he aged 3 years and 3 months, or allegedly. There's guys like Diggs and Thielen that I don't know if people are going to be on as much because they have more money to spend, so they're probably going to go up to Julio Jones, to Mike Evans, Tyreek Hill. I get that Thielen kind of dropped off at the end of the season, but this is still an offense that while a lot of people are relying on Dalvin Cook to probably have a very good season, and he very well may, and he's probably going to be a lot healthier this season, Kirk Cousins is still a guy that aired it out over in Washington, aired it out a whole bunch over in Minnesota. They're probably going to be a heavy passing offense. And these two guys are very much the biggest targets. Either one of them can end up with 15 targets in any given game here. Using either one of them gives you a lot of upside, and they're going to be slightly less owned because of the guys that are above them and the guys that are a grand below them. Let's see. Is there anyone I missed? We didn't mention Kirk. Oh, Adam Humphries. Adam Humphries is my favorite GPP play this week. No. Absolutely love him.
Can we make the bet that you have to play Adam Humphries? Come on, man, go.
Can he take Adam Humphries? I'll take D.D. Westbrook.
I'll take Samuel. I'll take anybody.
Done. I'm in.
Oh, this is great. Want
to just start off with 2 tweets?
I will start crafting your tweet once we get off this podcast.
Me and Dean will craft the tweet throughout the week. This is just
handcrafted. I'm going to handcraft my tweet, just so you know.
That's a callback to when people weren't listening, Dean. Just so you know.
By the way, I have some breaking news right now. I just want to,
Jerron Brown was signed by somebody?
No, Jerron Brown is not signed. I don't know if he's signed by Dean 78904, but he has not been signed still. The Cowboys, they signed 2 running backs off their practice squad. Because of their talks with Elliott. So I just think things are shaking up here. And again, like, we are the early podcast, but listen, if anyone wants to, like, lock in a bet right now, like, will Pollard play or not? Listen, I'll be in on it. Like, I think Pollard is the starter going forward right now.
So people want to know, Mangone, what percentage of best ball shares do you have of Tony Pollard?
Oh, I mean, it's pretty high, man. Actually, let me pull it up right now. I'm heavily.
We're not talking about this. Let's move on.
We are. We got to tell the people. He's my highest owned running back at 33%, along with Devin Singletary, which, again.
Just move on.
All right, fair enough. People are going to tell me that the thing that they want to get rid of this podcast is talking about my best ball shares.
Tell us in the chat or, like, in the comment section how terrible best ball references are, or how much you love them. Either way. Please feel free. Your constructive criticism will be much appreciated. We're going to talk about tight ends in a second. Grant has a rant prepared, but he might have a second rant if Mangone mentions best balls one more time.
Oh, gosh, I forgot about the rant.
I can't wait for it. I'm so excited. It's the most exciting.
Well, it was an interesting situation. I had to get up to a wedding rehearsal, and I was down in Southern California. I can't remember what city. And I go to a gas station, and I get a delicious hot dog because I'm hungry.
Oh, no.
And some guy comes up to me while I'm eating my hot dog and is trying to sell me a stereo out of the back of his car. And I already know that this is either stolen or a scam, but I'm trying to get rid of him, and the dude is relentless. And so he's like, I've got the work order here. I'm like, I should have known that how much of the scam this was, and just immediately got in my car. He's like, how much will you give for this? I'm selling it for like $1,000. Look, the MSRP is $2,000. I'm like, dude, I'll give you like $20. He's like, no, man, come on. Look at the MSRP is $2,000. Dude, I'll give you $40. And finally, like, he wouldn't leave me alone, so I gave him $100 just to get rid of him. And I immediately go in the car. I check to see if it's stolen. I'm like, oh, it's not stolen. Enter the name of the thing. I'm like, oh, it's a scam. All right, great. The worst part was I didn't care about the $100. I cared about I had to go to like 4 different dumpsters or 3 different trash cans and 1 dumpster to dump stuff off, because apparently in Laguna Beach and Dana Point, they hide their dumpsters, so it's tough to throw stuff away. So it's just a giant stereo set that I have to piecemeal into different trash cans. I don't care about the $100. It just wasted so much of my time.
Couple things. How you went on a distance for a dress rehearsal dinner?
I went what for a dress rehearsal?
You went to a wedding rehearsal dinner? It wasn't even for a wedding?
It was what? Yes, I went to the dinner. And then the wedding was the next day. Dean, do you not know how weddings work?
Yeah, Dean, I was asking, he had the dinner and then the hot dog on top of that, and also the hot dog at like 7-Eleven or whatever? What are you doing?
Dean, no one.
Okay, so the hot dogs are delicious, and I have to focus on the open bar at the wedding rehearsal. So you get a little bit of food in your stomach. Plus, they aren't going to be – the wedding rehearsal was at 2:30 in the afternoon, or the wedding rehearsal dinner was at 2:30 in the afternoon. It was a very strange situation. I had a good time, but – yes, it was very weird. Needless to say, I didn't make it till 10:30 that night.
Well, was it like the blue plate special at 2:30 for a dinner? What are we talking about?
I don't know. It was very confusing. It was very confusing.
And you couldn't like donate to like the Goodwill, or it was that bad? It was that much trash? Like Goodwill wouldn't take the stereo?
I mean, I guess that would have been a smarter move. Then I'd have to find a Goodwill. I just assumed I'd be able to find a dumpster, and it turned out to be a giant pain finding a dumpster.
Mangone, you have some thoughts, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, all I'd say is like, Grant, next time you are struggling at 7-Eleven and you're having a bad day, get a slice of pizza there, man. It always
It wasn't
turns-
actually. It was a Chevron hot dog.
The highest quality of hot dogs, the power rankings of hot dogs, Chevron is not on the Family Feud board.
AM/PM is definitely number one.
Mangone lives in the New York, New Jersey area, and he gets his pizza at 7-Eleven. Like
so you are corrupting everything the way you're saying that.
That's
One
all
time,
true. That was a fact.
That was not a fact. I said one time I was at 7-Eleven and I was sitting there and it was close to lineup block and I had to get home and I needed something to eat. You know, when you're sitting there and you're just struggling, you're like, I need to eat something. And I was staring at the pizza and I said, you know what? We're just going to do it. Let's grab the slice of pizza. And I had a really good night over on DraftKings and FanDuel. Had a really nice night. So you know what I said the next day? Well, things went well. Let's go back and do the same thing. Let's do the same thing over again and have another nice day. And again, we had another really good day. And it wasn't just one of those double your money days. It was a really good day, Dean.
What girl are you taking to 7-Eleven pizza on a date?
I never said I took any girl to 7-Eleven on it.
You're saying we.
Oh, well, I'm talking about just me. Like, you know, like Travis, like, you know, the team.
Mouse in his pocket.
Yeah.
Well, it's a correlation, is a causation, or is it a coincidence?
I don't know, Dean. You know, I was just trying to do it for the good mojo, the good juju, and hey,
what happened the one day it stopped? Like you had a slice of pizza and your team sucked. Did you blame them on the pizza?
No, we stopped doing it and we called it a new day. We just brushed our hands off and said, okay, let's move on. No more eating this terrible pizza. And I haven't had it since.
And now you're having gas station sushi or something like that, which is one a night for you. Who knows what you're up to? Well, we should talk about tight ends before we step aside and get out of here. I think it's pretty clear cut as far as tight ends, Mangone. Kelsey at the top, obviously legit. Kittle as well. Ertz, one of those Philadelphia pieces we talked about. O.J. Howard should be a monster, taking a step forward for that Tampa Bay offense. There's just three big mouths to feed in that Tampa Bay side. Ingram with all the targets, presumably there against Dallas. And if you want to save some money, we got Henry just a little bit too cheap right there, Mangone, because there's a lot of options at tight end. I'm probably not going off the board, but like maybe 6 or 7 or 8 I'm willing to play. That's basically it for me. I don't think it's necessary. What say you?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. And you talked about O.J. Howard and the Tampa situation, but there's 3 big heads to feed, but there's no one to feed at running back. So there's ways that they can all eat, in my opinion. So, like O.J. Howard a lot, like Kittle, like Kelsey. Ingram's a pretty fine option. I think he's someone that will progress throughout the season, but with Eli Manning, I'm not as high on, but I think he's perfectly fine at the price of $4,800. Prefer O.J. Howard. I'm not the biggest Ertz fan. I obviously think he's a good player, but I don't know. I don't think I'm going to go to him too much, at least this week. I'm sure I'll pick my spots. And then, I think Hunter Henry's price is amazing. I think those are the guys you're really looking at, and really not many other people. What about you, Grant? Do you have any other contrarian options, or is this just kind of how you're approaching tight end like the rest of the people it's out there?
Yeah, I mean, it's those guys. It's Hunter Henry going up against a defense that kind of funneled targets to running back and tight end last year. And then if you want to go off the board, if you want to go against O.J. Howard, I'm going to just keep playing this guy until I die. Cameron Brate occasionally has a nice little 2-touchdown game in him once a year. Going up against San Fran, who's just not a good defense, has not been great versus the tight end. And you talk about groupthink on one tight end. I'm pretty sure groupthink on O.J. Howard is just absolutely through the roof. So go with Cameron Brate. They can run 2 tight end sets. They don't have Humphreys in the offense anymore, so we're not entirely certain if they're going to roll with more 2 wide receiver sets. We don't know what exactly they're going to do. And Brate, still really like Brate.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how they're going to replace Humphreys and his 7 catches and 30 yards.
Yeah, that's 7 targets. At 2,800, if Brate had 7 catches, how would you feel about that, even if he only had 30 yards?
This is just a callback to you losing this week. Are we officially locked in? You have hump day against Cleveland. I have Samuels and Mangone. Who do you have again?
D.D. Westbrook, man.
Oh, man. Grant, seriously. Is it we're locked in on this?
Yeah, we're doing point per dollar, of course. But
look at him adding up.
Look at that, yeah.
Really? You take a 5K wide receiver. We've literally always done point per dollar.
What a con man.
That's fine. D's going for 20 to 25, so I'm fine.
I'll take the chalk and Samuels. I mean, I want Lockett if we can do point per dollar. But, whatever. I'll take Samuels. I won't complain too much. Any other thoughts as far as tight end? Should we give any final thoughts as far as the slate? There's one more poll question that I wanted to tackle. Probably the most important poll question, Grant. I'm not sure if you saw this one or not. But, to me, it's not even a conversation. Among the original Starburst flavors, which is the best, Grant? You got strawberry, which, of course, is the pink, lemon, orange, or cherry?
It's pink, and anyone who says differently is probably a sociopath.
Mangone, are you a sociopath?
I am not a sociopath. This is the right answer. It is strawberry pink. That's the one you want. If I could just get a pack of just all of them, which I think those are actually available now.
They sold them for a while, and I bought a lot of them, and then I got worried about diabetes, and then I stopped.
And you know what? We only have, according to the poll, only 44% of people are sociopaths to follow me because, yeah, that is the chalk. Mark it down in the podcast. I don't know, 57, 58, 59 minutes in. This is the first time we agreed on something, boys. It's pink Starburst. That's the chalk, and that's the right answer. It's not even a conversation. End of story.
And by the way, it's updated. If you refresh, Dean, it's 56% now. So let's not disrespect the 9% other people that put some votes in. So yeah, I agree with you. Strawberry pink is the one.
Did you guys know that green gummy bears are strawberry flavored?
No,
that's not something I ever thought. I don't remember the last time I had a green gummy bear, if I'm being honest.
I thought they all taste the same. Is it just like food coloring? Like food?
No, they have the different colors are different flavors, and green is for some reason strawberry. Why is pink strawberry?
I don't know. Yeah, I wanted to clarify just because people know that that's the pink is strawberry. I clarified in the poll, and yeah, amongst 7% for lemon. Lemon is like the Adam Humphries of Starburst flavors, I guess you can say. Mangone, let's finish strong. Give me something. Give me a bold. I mean, I don't know. Whatever our term is going to be. Bold call, hot take. What are we going to find out? We're going to wake up Monday morning and say, or I guess Sunday night and saying, oh man, I wish I would have played this. I wish I would have lock button that. Sell me on something.
Yeah, well, I guess like the two takes that I said, I guess I'll just talk about them again. I think you're going to want to have a game stack of the San Francisco and Bucks game. I think that's one of the best games on the board, and that's the one you want to be overweight on. If you have to pick one stack, you're only playing one lineup in GBPs. That's what I would pick, and I'm just going to stand with it, man. You want to lock button D.D. Westbrook. Again, similar to Curtis Samuel. I don't think that D.D. Westbrook is going to cost below $5K maybe for the rest of the season, Dean. That's how confident I am in him. I'm expecting a really big game. Love D.D. Westbrook here in the spot.
Grant, see those hot takes and raise them.
I mean, if you want to go safe, you just go with Tampa Bay San Fran game stack, or you go with KC Jacksonville game stack. You go with the cheap running backs. You go with a way underpriced wide receiver. But if you want to go balls out, you play Josh Allen, and you play him with one of his big play wide receivers, and you win a ton of money.
You say one of like he has more than one.
Foster Brown.
Yeah, I mean Brown.
Or you can play him with I haven't even looked into Beasley, to be honest, too much, but I just remember that he's there. I'm like, I just get so excited about Robert Foster every single time I see him, and he's only 4K, and I know it could end terribly, but you're getting a guy that was one of the better fantasy point producers the second half of the season. Granted, was larger because of his running ability, but you can pair him with his most expensive wide receiver is $4,300. So they're all big play guys. They essentially look to run, and then when they can't run, or they look to throw far, if they don't see anything, then they just run. That's how the offense works. It has big playability in almost every single matchup here, and they're cheap. They're super cheap. And you can throw in the entirety of the offense for under 20K, including Singletary.
Listen, I feel better about your Cole Beasley take than your Adam Humphries one. So, I actually did read some stuff.
I think you're mixing up Cole Beasley and Adam Humphries. I can't imagine why you're mixing those two up. But
Look, Humphries has done well for me over the years, and I think I'm ready to just pounce on him at 4K on a slate where there's super chalk and there's always a potential. The guy has speed. Good possession wide receiver or good slight wide receiver that's going to get probably a ton of targets in that offense. Mariota runs an offense where he tries to get high percentage passes, and that's perfect for Humphries in the way that he plays. But he also has the ability to break one off. Remember, he was a punt returner at one point. He might still be a punt returner. I don't even know. But he's a guy with speed in an offense with not a whole lot of weapons in an offense where they do high percentage throws, and he's a guy that is perfect for that.
I just looked it up real quick, Grant. Adam Humphries is the punt returner on a Titans depth chart. So there you go.
Boom. Got it. Guy has speed.
Grant's gonna be the guy with the double dip, the Titans defense and the Adam Humphries in his lineup this week.
Look, the way he was using Tampa, it's because they had Jackson and they had Evans. And then they had Godwin, and they had all sorts of guys that could stretch the field. So everyone plays a specific role in their offense here, and Humphries in the Tennessee offense could get a bigger workload here.
I was like in wrap the show up mode like 7 minutes ago. I'm ready to eat my protein bar, and you guys are going on a rant about Humphreys. And I'll just say my bold call, just to take a knock at that Tennessee side. Give me Mayfield for 350 and 3, and Odell Beckham Jr. That's ODJ? No, ODB. I still don't know. It's
OBJ.
OBJ. Not
Think
Rizzo,
OBHave, but OBJ.
It's Odell Beckham. He's going to go for 150 and 2 touchdowns, one of which a 70-yarder. He's going to get free. He's going to be unleashed. It's going to be fun. It's going to be good times. That's the end of the podcast. Again, feel free to leave some messages in our in the RotoGrinders little spot. Say, hey, leave a message. Tell us you watched the deal. Thanks for downloading. Thanks for listening. We want to make this better. We want to make this more fun to listen to. Again, it's a first look podcast. It's not the first podcast you should be listening to. Wait, it is. It's just not the last one because we're recording it Monday night. He's Mangone. He's Grant. I'm Dean. Thanks for watching. We're out of here. Holler.
Listen, kids.